The summer of 1995 in our small town of Barrow Creek was like any other. The town, nestled in the rolling hills of western Massachusetts, was a place where nothing ever really happened. It was a kind of town that felt frozen in time, where every night bled into the next and every weekend felt the same. The only excitement came from the occasional gossip, or the long, hot days stretching lazily ahead. For me, it was the perfect summer. At 16, I was right in that age where you're old enough to get tastes of independence, but still young enough to make stupid decisions. My two best friends, Jace and Benny, were a year older than me. We'd known each other since elementary school. Jace was the type who always knew how to make you laugh, while Benny, quiet, calculated, and always a little bit reckless, was the one who'd actually follow through on dangerous ideas. Together, we had all the usual teenage ambitions: drink, explore, and escape the confines of a town that seemed to trap us. Every Friday night, after my parents went to bed, we had a ritual. I'd sneak into the garage fridge, carefully pulling a few Budweisers from the back of the bottom shelf, where my dad wouldn't notice them missing. I'd climb out my bedroom window, drop onto the shed roof, and then meet Jason and Benny at the end of my driveway. We'd hike out to our spot in the woods, the clearing we discovered years ago, and there we'd talk, drink, and shoot at cans with Benny's pump-action BB gun. It was just the three of us. No worries, no rules. The night that everything changed started like any other. We met up around 11 p.m. The air already thick with humidity. The mosquitoes were swarming, but we didn't care. We were 16 and invincible, or at least that's what we thought. Our usual path was familiar, through the woods, past the twisted trees and thick underbrush that led to the small clearing at the top of the hill. By the time we reached the spot, our beers were warm, the familiar scent of pine trees and damp earth filling the air. This time, something was different. The air felt heavier, almost suffocating. It wasn't like I was scared, but there was an unsettling vibe hanging over us. The darkness seemed too deep, the trees a little too close. Benny didn't seem to mind, though. He cracked open another beer and pulled out his BB gun, setting up cans on a fallen log about 20 feet away. "Did you guys hear about Jamie getting caught shoplifting at the pharmacy?" Jace asked, cracking open his second beer. The conversation was light at first. As usual, we talked about the latest gossip. Who was dating who was caught doing what. Typical teenage stuff. "No way," I said, laughing. "You mean Jamie Blink? Isn't her dad on the town council or something?" "Yeah, she tried to steal some makeup. They called her parents instead of the cops," Benny said, already a few beers in. We laughed, our voices echoing the woods. Benny took aim with a BB gun and fired at the first can. Crack! The can tipped over, and we all cheered. The usual banter continued, and for a while, it felt like just another Friday night. But as the night deepened, the conversation began to shift, like it always did when we were out in the woods, drinking and telling stories. "You guys ever hear about the thing people see out in the state forest?" Benny asked, his voice lower than usual. "What thing?" I asked, half interested, thinking it was just another ghost story. "My cousin went camping out there last month." Benny continued. He swears he saw something weird, like a person but not a person. It was watching their campsite. Jace laughed. "Your cousin's always making up crap." No, Benny said, his voice firm. "There was an article in the paper a couple of years ago. A hunter said he saw something out there, something that followed him through the trees. Not a bear or anything normal. It was swinging between the branches. Fast, real fast. Bigfoot." Jace joked, though I could hear the slight edge in his voice. "No," Benny said, shaking his head. "It was bigger than a person. It was fast, but not like anything you've ever seen. Some people have started calling it the Forest Watcher." The words hung in the air, like a shadow stretching over us. My stomach twisted, but I didn't want to show it. Benny's stories were always strange, but this one felt different. The air around us grew heavier, like the woods were listening in. The laughter died down, and the sound of the night seemed to fade. The usual crickets and owls were quiet, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. "We should talk about something else," I suggested, try to shake off the feeling creeping up my spine. Jay smirked. "Oh, are you scared?" "No," I muttered, trying to sound confident. "Just let's talk about something else." But Benny kept going. "You don't get it. There's been other reports. People saying they've seen things. People called the cops. One woman said she saw a guy with wings. Not like angel wings. More like bat wings. Huge." I froze. It wasn't that I believed it, but the description sent a chill down my spine. Wings. I repeated, trying to make sense of it. "Like, what, a bird?" "No," Benny said, his voice low and serious. "It was a man, a person, but it had these massive wings, dark, folded out behind him." The wind shifted suddenly, sending a chill through the trees. I shivered and tried to laugh it off. "Right. So, we're talking about some kind of giant Batman now." "Maybe," Benny said, but he didn't laugh. "But it's not just that. There are things in these woods. Things that shouldn't be here." I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. The one that comes when the world starts feeling just a little too big. When you're drunk and everything feels just a little too real. My gaze shifted to Jace, who was sitting up straighter, his eyes scanning the darkness, as if waiting for something to happen. Then, without warning, I saw something. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, a shadow flitting between the trees. But then it moved again, too fast, too deliberately. "Did you guys see that?" I asked, my voice tight. "See what?" Jace asked, looking around. "Something moved, just over there," I said, pointing toward the edge of clearing. Benny squinted into the darkness. It was probably just a deer. But I knew it wasn't a deer. It was too fast, too wrong. I tried to shrug it off, but the feeling in my chest was growing, like something was watching us, waiting. We fell into an uncomfortable silence. Benny took another shot with his BB gun, but his hand shook just slightly. The gun went off with a sharp crack, and the gun tipped over. But none of us were paying attention. We were all staring into the woods, watching for whatever that was out there. And then it happened. A shape moved against the night sky. It was dark, a shadow that seemed to glide through the trees. Too fast, too unnatural. My heart pounded as I watched it circle above us. The sound of my own breathing was deafening in my ears. "What the hell is that?" Jace whispered, his voice full of fear. I couldn't answer. I could barely breathe. The shape swooped low, too low, and then it landed on top of a tall pine tree across the clearing. The whole tree shook with the impact, and for a moment, everything was still. We didn't move. We just watched. The figure perched on the tree, barely visible in the moonlight. It was tall, its shape almost human, but something was wrong. The silhouette had wings, huge, dark wings that folded out behind it like they were part of its body. I could feel it staring at us, even though I couldn't see its face. It didn't move. It just stood there, perched on that branch, watching. And then Benny did the worst thing possible. He grabbed the BB gun. "Don't!" I whispered, but it was too late. Benny had already pumped the gun, taking aim at the figure in the tree. "Let's see if it's real," Benny said under his breath, almost excited. "No, Benny, don't." Jace shouted, but it was too late. Benny squeezed the trigger. The crack of the BB gun seemed impossibly loud in the stillness of night. The BB hit something with a sharp ping, and the figure on the branch straightened up. The rustle of leaves followed. But then there was a sound, not a growl or a screech, but something worse. It started like a human chuckle, but then it twisted into something higher, something unnatural. It was like the buzzing of an insect, but deeper, more menacing. The figure spread its wings, blocking out the stars above us. It pointed at us, directly at us, and in that moment I knew we were not meant to be here. "Run!" I screamed. We didn't need any more encouragement. We all turned and ran, crashing to the underbrush, our breaths coming in panicked gasps. I could hear Jace and Benny behind me, but I didn't dare look back. The sound of branches snapping and leaves rustling above us filled the air. It was following us. Whatever it was, it was coming after us. We didn't stop running until we hit the edge of the neighborhood. The first streetlight we saw was like a beacon of safety. We stopped, gasping for air, our hearts pounding in our chests. What the hell was that? Jace asked, his voice trembling. I don't know, I said, looking over at Benny. His eyes were wide with fear. But there was something else there too, something like regret. We didn't speak much more that night. We walked the rest of the way home in silence, the weight of what we'd seen hanging over us like a cloud. I never wanted to go back to those woods again, but there was something else, something I couldn't shake. The next morning when I woke up, I found something strange on my nightstand, a single BB sitting on top of my alarm clock. I hadn't been there the night before.